The massive space station called Meridian Point floated in the darkness between stars. Ships from a dozen different worlds docked at its ports every day. Today was special. Diplomats from Earth and several alien species were gathering for an important conference. Trade agreements worth billions would be signed here. Lisa Grant stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around the docking bay. She was tall, almost 6 feet, with sharp features and perfect posture. Her diplomatic uniform was crisp and clean. She had spent 5 years preparing for this assignment. This conference could make her career. A station security officer approached her. He was a Corinthian, one of the warrior species that ran security on Meridian Point. He stood over 8 feet tall, with gray skin and muscles that bulged under his armor. "Commander Grant," the Corinthian said in a deep voice. "Welcome to Meridian Point. Your bodyguard is waiting." Lisa nodded. She expected another Corinthian, or maybe one of the armored Vaxian soldiers she had seen in the corridor. Protection was important. 3 delegations had already filed complaints about threats and suspicious activity. The Corinthian led her around a corner. A human man stood there, waiting. He was short, maybe 5.5 feet tall. His build was lean, almost thin. He wore a simple black security uniform with no decorations or medals. His brown hair was cut short, and his face showed no expression. "This is Jake Morris," the Corinthian said. "He will be your personal protection during the conference." Lisa stared at Jake. Then she laughed. It was not a polite laugh. It was the kind of laugh that came from genuine surprise and disbelief. "You're joking," she said, looking at the Corinthian. "He's too small to be my guard." Jake said nothing. His face remained blank. He simply stood there, hands clasped in front of him. The Corinthian's expression did not change. "Jake Morris has the highest security clearance. He was assigned specifically to you." Lisa shook her head. "I need real protection. Look at him. He's smaller than I am. What's he going to do if someone attacks me?" "Ask them politely to stop." A few other humans and aliens in the corridor turned to look. Some smiled. One Vaxian delegate chuckled loudly. "I want a different guard," Lisa said firmly. "Give me one of your warriors. Or a Vaxian soldier. Someone who actually looks like they can protect me." The Corinthian security officer looked uncomfortable. "Jake Morris is assigned to you. The assignments are final." Lisa's face turned red. "Then change them. I'm a senior diplomat. I have the authority to refuse inadequate security." Jake finally spoke. His voice was quiet and calm. "I'll wait outside your quarters, Commander Grant. When you're ready to proceed to the conference hall, let me know." He turned and walked away. His movements were smooth and quiet. He did not look offended or angry. He simply left. Lisa watched him go, then turned back to the Corinthian. "I'm filing a formal complaint. Earth sent their scraps while everyone else gets real security." The Corinthian said nothing. He simply gestured for her to follow him to her assigned quarters. Over the next few hours, Lisa settled into her rooms. They were nice, with a view of space and the distant stars. She reviewed her notes for the conference and prepared her opening statements. She tried to forget about the embarrassing security situation. That evening, she attended a welcome reception in the station's grand hall. Diplomats from 6 different species mingled and talked. Servers carried trays of food and drinks. The atmosphere was polite but tense. Everyone knew the real negotiations would be difficult. Lisa found herself talking to a group of other human diplomats. "You won't believe what they assigned me for security," she said, sipping her drink. "A tiny guy who looks like he's never been in a fight in his life." Meanwhile, the Corinthians have their warriors, and the Vaxians brought entire armed squads. The other diplomats made sympathetic noises. One of them, an older woman named Carol Stevens, frowned. "What was his name?" "Jake something," Lisa said with a wave of her hand. "Morris, I think." Carol's eyes widened. "Jake Morris. Short guy, quiet, looks unremarkable." "That's him," Lisa said. "You know him." Carol opened her mouth to say something, then closed it. "Just be careful what you assume," she said quietly. Lisa did not understand what that meant, but the conversation moved on to other topics. Outside the Grand Hall, Jake stood at his post. He watched everyone who entered and exited. His eyes missed nothing. He noted which delegates traveled with heavy security and which ones seemed nervous. He watched the maintenance workers who cleaned the corridors and memorized their faces. 3 of them did not belong. Their movements were too careful, too practiced. They were not looking at the floor or walls. They were studying the security cameras and the guard positions. Jake made a mental note. He would watch those 3 carefully. Inside the hall, Lisa laughed at something another diplomat said. She had already forgotten about the small man standing guard outside. She had no idea that he was already working to keep her alive. The conference was about to begin, and danger was closer than anyone realized. The conference officially started the next morning. The Grand Hall was filled with delegates, guards, and observers. Lisa sat at the human delegation table, reviewing her tablet. She wore her formal diplomatic robes, dark blue with gold trim. She felt confident and prepared. Jake stood against the wall, 10 feet behind her. He had been there when she woke up, standing outside her quarters. He had followed her to breakfast, then to the conference hall. He never spoke unless she asked him a direct question. He never complained about her comments from yesterday. Lisa found his silence annoying. At least the big Corinthian guards talked to each other and looked intimidating. Jake just stood there like a piece of furniture. The opening ceremonies began. Each species presented their goals and expectations for the conference. The speeches were long and boring. Lisa paid attention anyway, noting which delegates seemed aggressive and which ones seemed willing to compromise. During a break, she walked to the refreshment area. Jake followed at a distance. Several Corinthian honor guards stood near the food tables. They were massive, their armor polished to a shine. Their weapons hung at their sides, visible and threatening. One of them nodded to Lisa. "Commander Grant, your speech was well delivered." "Thank you," Lisa said, smiling. She glanced back at Jake, who stood near a pillar. "I wish Earth security was as impressive as your warriors." The Corinthian followed her gaze. He looked at Jake for a long moment, then back to Lisa. He seemed about to say something, but changed his mind. "Every species has their methods," he said carefully. That afternoon, Jake noticed the 3 suspicious maintenance workers again. They were cleaning the corridors near the conference hall, but their equipment was wrong. The cleaning supplies were old models, not the new ones the station used everywhere else. Their uniforms were slightly different colors. Jake followed them at a distance. They moved through a service corridor and stopped at a maintenance panel. One of them opened it and pulled out a small device. He attached it to the panel's interior and pressed several buttons. Then they closed the panel and moved on. Jake memorized the panel's location. After the workers left, he opened it and examined the device. It was a security bypass module. Someone was planning to disable the alarms in this section. He went to the station security office and reported what he found. The security chief, a massive Corinthian named Krell, listened to his report. Then he looked Jake up and down. "You are certain?" Krell asked. "Yes," Jake said. "The device is still there. You can verify it yourself." Krell sent 2 of his officers to check. They came back 20 minutes later and shook their heads. "The panel is clean. No device. Just standard equipment." Jake's expression did not change. "They removed it after I left." Krell leaned back in his chair. "Or perhaps you were mistaken. You are small. Perhaps your eyes are not as sharp as you think." Jake nodded slowly. "Perhaps," he said. He turned and left the office. But he was not mistaken. Someone had gone back and removed the device. That meant they knew he had found it. That meant they were watching him. That evening, there was another reception. This one was less formal, with music and dancing. Lisa attended, wearing an elegant dress. She talked with delegates from the Vaxian Empire, discussing potential trade routes. A Vaxian warrior approached the group. He was drunk, his movements unsteady. Vaxians were large, about 7 feet tall, with thick scales and powerful builds. This one was young and aggressive. "Humans," the Vaxian said, his words slurred. "Tiny, weak creatures. You should not be here among real warriors. The other Vaxians at the table looked embarrassed. One of them tried to lead the drunk warrior away, but he pushed them off. Your guard, the Vaxian said, pointing at Jake. He is even smaller than you. Pathetic. Jake stood nearby, watching. His hands remained at his sides. His face showed no emotion. The drunk Vaxian walked toward Jake. Fight me, little human. Show me your warrior spirit. No, Jake said simply. You are a coward, the Vaxian said loudly. Several people in the room turned to watch. All humans are cowards. Lisa felt her face burn with embarrassment. Her guard would not even defend human honor. He just stood there, taking the insults. Jake looked at the Vaxian calmly. You are intoxicated. Go sleep it off. The Vaxian raised his fist, but two other Vaxian warriors grabbed him and pulled him away. They apologized to Lisa and dragged their drunk companion out of the reception. Lisa walked over to Jake. You could have at least said something stronger, she said quietly. Now everyone thinks we're weak. I am not here to prove anything, Jake said. I am here to keep you safe. By doing nothing. Lisa shook her head. I should have insisted on a different guard. She walked away. Jake watched her go, then returned his attention to the room. He noted which delegates had watched the confrontation with interest. He noted which ones looked pleased. Later that night, Jake conducted another patrol of the corridors near Lisa's quarters. He saw the 3 maintenance workers again. This time they were joined by 5 others. 8 people total. They carried equipment, but they moved like soldiers, not cleaners. Jake took pictures with his security badge and sent them to station security. He also sent them to Earth Security Liaison. Someone needed to know what was happening. The maintenance crew split up. 3 went toward the docking bays. 5 went toward the diplomatic quarters. Jake followed the 5. They stopped outside a service entrance near the VIP section, where Lisa and the other senior diplomats stayed. One of them pulled out another device and began working on the door panel. Jake stepped back into the shadows and watched. He recorded everything. After 10 minutes, they got the door open. They went inside, into the service tunnels that ran behind the diplomatic quarters. Jake waited 30 seconds, then followed. Inside the tunnel, he could hear them talking in low voices. They were speaking a language he did not recognize, but their tone was professional. They were planning something. Jake retreated and went directly to Lisa's quarters. He knocked on her door. She answered, wearing a robe and looking annoyed. What is it? She asked. There are intruders in the service tunnels, Jake said. We need to move you to a secure location. Lisa looked at him skeptically. You reported something earlier today and security found nothing. This is different, Jake said. I have recordings. Show them to station security, Lisa said. I'm not leaving my quarters because you're paranoid. She closed the door in his face. Jake stood there for a moment. Then he positioned himself directly in front of her door and settled in to wait. If anyone wanted to get to Lisa, they would have to go through him first. Inside her quarters, Lisa went back to bed. She did not know that outside, Jake was preparing for a fight. The 3rd day of the conference started with morning meetings. Lisa attended a session on trade regulations, finding it tedious but necessary. By mid-morning, a break was called. Lisa decided to visit the station's market district. She wanted to buy a few gifts to bring home and needed to clear her head. Jake followed her as she walked through the commercial section of Meridian Point. The market was busy, filled with merchants from different worlds selling everything from food to technology. The corridors were wide here, with shops on both sides. Hundreds of people moved through the area. Lisa had told Jake to keep his distance. I don't need you hovering, she had said. Stay back. Let me shop in peace. Jake had nodded and dropped back 20 feet. He could still see her, but she did not feel crowded. She browsed through a shop selling Earth artifacts, examining old books and music recordings. Jake's eyes never stopped moving. He watched the crowd, looking for patterns. He noted anyone who appeared more than once. He watched for people whose attention focused on Lisa instead of the shops. He spotted the first one near a food vendor. A human man, average height, wearing casual clothes. He pretended to look at fruit, but his eyes kept drifting to Lisa. The second one was a Vaxian, standing near a technology shop. He was not looking at the merchandise. He was looking at the corridor, tracking Lisa's movement. Jake counted 6 more. 8 total. They were positioned in a loose circle around Lisa, staying in the crowd but maintaining visual contact with her. They were professionals. Their positioning was too perfect to be coincidence. Jake moved closer to Lisa. She was in a jewelry shop now, looking at necklaces made from asteroid crystals. He came up beside her. "We need to leave," he said quietly. "Now." Lisa looked up, annoyed. "I'm shopping. Give me 10 minutes. "We don't have 10 minutes, Jake said. His voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it. "There are 8 hostiles in the area. They're positioning for an extraction." Lisa rolled her eyes. "You're being paranoid again. Last night you thought maintenance workers were assassins." "Commander Grant," Jake said. "Trust me. We need to go." Lisa turned back to the necklaces. "I'm tired of your false alarms. Wait outside." Jake looked at the 8 men. They were moving closer. The window was closing. He pressed his security badge, activating the emergency beacon. Station security would respond, but it would take them 3 to 5 minutes to reach this section. He did not have 3 minutes. The 8 men moved simultaneously. They came from different directions, closing the circle. 2 of them were human. 3 were Vaxian. 2 were Corinthian. 1 was from a species Jake did not recognize. All of them pulled out weapons, small energy pistols designed to stun rather than kill. Lisa saw them and froze. Her face went pale. "Jake." "Stay behind me," Jake said. The first attacker reached them. He was Vaxian, big and fast. He raised his weapon. Jake moved. He stepped inside the Vaxian's reach and struck his wrist. The gun fell. Jake grabbed the Vaxian's arm and used his momentum against him, throwing him into a display case. Glass shattered. The Vaxian hit the ground and did not get up. 1 second. The second attacker came from behind. Jake heard his footsteps and spun. The attacker was human, swinging a stun baton. Jake ducked under the swing and drove his elbow into the man's solar plexus. The air rushed out of the attacker's lungs. Jake swept his legs and the man crashed down. 2 seconds. 2 Corinthians charged from opposite sides. They were huge, expecting their size to overwhelm him. Jake dropped to the ground and rolled. Both Corinthians collided with each other. While they were tangled, Jake came up and struck pressure points on both their necks. They dropped like stones. 4 seconds. A human attacker grabbed Lisa from behind. She screamed. Jake crossed the distance in 3 quick steps. He caught the attacker's arm and twisted it at an angle that made the man shriek in pain. Jake pulled him away from Lisa and threw him into a shop wall. The attacker slumped down, unconscious. 5 seconds. The remaining 3 attackers hesitated. They had expected an easy grab. Instead, half their team was down in 5 seconds. Jake stood between them and Lisa, breathing normally, waiting. One of them rushed forward anyway. Jake sidestepped and grabbed his arm as he passed. He used the attacker's own speed to swing him around and slam him into the ground. The man's head bounced off the floor and he went still. 6 seconds. The last 2 attackers looked at each other. They raised their weapons. Jake picked up a fallen stun baton and threw it. It spun through the air and hit one attacker in the face. He went down, blood streaming from his broken nose. 7 seconds. The final attacker turned to run. Jake lunged forward and caught him by the collar. He pulled the man off balance and drove him face-first into the ground. The attacker struggled for a moment, then went limp. 8 seconds. Jake stood up and looked around. All 8 attackers were down. Some were unconscious. Some were groaning in pain. None of them were getting up. Lisa stood frozen, her back against the jewelry shop counter. Her eyes were wide with shock. Around them, the market crowd had scattered, people hiding in shops and doorways. Jake walked back to Lisa. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. She could not speak. Stay here, Jake said. He moved through the 8 attackers, checking each one. He removed their weapons and bound their hands with their own belts. He moved efficiently, without wasted motion. Station security arrived 3 minutes later, a full squad of Corinthian warriors with weapons drawn. They stopped and stared at the scene. 8 attackers on the ground, all neutralized. Jake standing calmly among them. Lisa unharmed. Krell, the security chief, pushed through his warriors. He looked at the attackers, then at Jake. What happened? Extraction attempt, Jake said. 8 hostiles, armed with stun weapons. They wanted her alive. Krell's eyes widened. He knelt and examined one of the attackers, checking his equipment. These are professionals. Mercenaries. He looked up at Jake with new respect. You stopped all 8? Yes, Jake said simply. The other Corinthian warriors were watching Jake now, their expressions a mix of surprise and respect. One of them spoke in their own language. Krell nodded and responded, then turned back to Jake. How long did it take? Krell asked. 8 seconds, Jake said. Krell stared at him. 8 seconds for 8 attackers? Jake did not respond. He walked back to Lisa. We need to get you to a secure location. There may be more. Lisa finally found her voice. It came out as a whisper. How did you? Later, Jake said. Right now we move. Krell assigned 6 of his best warriors to escort them. They surrounded Lisa and Jake and moved quickly through the corridors toward the secure section of the station. Lisa walked in a daze, her mind replaying what she had just seen. Jake had moved like water, fast and smooth. He had taken down men twice his size without hesitation. 8 trained fighters had not stood a chance against him. She had laughed at him, called him too small, said he was inadequate. He had just saved her life in 8 seconds. They took Lisa to a secure conference room deep in the station's protected zone. The room had thick walls and only one entrance. Corinthian guards stood outside. Inside, Lisa sat at a table while a medical officer checked her for injuries. She had none. Jake stood near the door, watching everything. Station Commander Vrel arrived 10 minutes later. He was Corinthian, older than the warriors, with scars across his gray face. He had run Meridian Point for 20 years. Nothing surprised him anymore. Except this. Commander Grant, Vrel said, sitting across from her. I am glad you are unharmed. We are interrogating the attackers now. Lisa nodded. She had not spoken much since the market. Her mind was still processing what had happened. Vrel looked at Jake. That was impressive work, Jake Morris. Just doing my job, Jake said. Vrel made a sound that might have been a laugh. 8 trained mercenaries in 8 seconds is not just doing your job. That is exceptional skill. Lisa finally spoke. Who is he? She asked. Really? Vrel looked between them. You do not know. Earth did not brief you on your protection detail. They told me his name, Lisa said. That's all. Vrel stood and walked to a wall screen. He pulled up a file. Jake's face appeared on the screen, along with columns of text and several photos. Jake Morris, Vrel read. Former Special Operations Officer with Earth's Tactical Response Unit. 12 years of active service. Specialist in close protection, zero-gravity combat, and threat assessment. He has protected 17 high-value targets in hostile situations. His success rate is 100%. He has never lost a client. Lisa stared at the screen. The photos showed Jake in combat armor, in training exercises, receiving medals. One photo showed him standing with a group of other soldiers. They all looked dangerous. Jake looked the most dangerous of all. He holds expert certifications in 14 different combat disciplines, Vrel continued. His psychological profile indicates extreme patience, high stress tolerance, and exceptional tactical awareness. His small stature is noted as an advantage. He can move in confined spaces and fight in environments where larger opponents struggle. Lisa felt something cold settle in her stomach. Why didn't anyone tell me this? It was in your briefing packet, Vrel said. Did you not read it? Lisa thought back to the briefing materials. There had been dozens of files. She had focused on the political and economic information. The security section had seemed routine. She had skimmed it. She had never actually read Jake's file. Vrel turned off the screen. Jake Morris is one of the best protection specialists in human service. When Earth assigns him to guard someone, it means they consider that person extremely valuable and at high risk. Why is he so quiet? Lisa asked. Why doesn't he wear medals or rank insignia? Jake answered before Vrel could. Because people underestimate me, he said simply. That makes my job easier. Lisa looked at him. He stood relaxed, hands at his sides, expression neutral. He did not look proud or offended. He was just stating a fact. The attackers in the market, Vrel said. We identified them. They work for the Syndicate. Lisa's eyes widened. The Syndicate was a criminal organization that operated in the border regions. They specialized in kidnapping, extortion, and political manipulation. Why would they want me? Lisa asked. Ransom, Vrel said. Earth would pay billions to get you back safely. The trade negotiations would collapse without you. The Syndicate would profit from both the ransom and the economic chaos. How did they get onto the station? Lisa asked. The maintenance workers, Jake said. The ones I reported 2 days ago. Vrel nodded. Jake was correct. They were Syndicate Advance Team. They disabled security protocols and smuggled in the extraction team. When Jake reported them, they went underground. They removed the evidence and waited for another opportunity. Lisa felt sick. I didn't believe him. When he tried to warn me, I thought he was paranoid. Many people make that mistake with Jake, Vrel said. He does not look dangerous. He does not act aggressive. But he sees things others miss. Jake spoke again. The 8 in the market were not the only team. There were others. Vrel's expression hardened. How many? At least 2 more teams, Jake said. The maintenance crew I spotted was 8 people. Only 3 participated in the attack. That leaves 5 unaccounted for. Plus the support team that helped them get onto the station. Where are they now? Vrel asked. Unknown, Jake said. But they will try again. The Syndicate does not give up after one failure. Vrel stood. I will increase security throughout the station. The conference will continue, but with heavy protection. No, Lisa said suddenly. Both Jake and Vrel looked at her. We can't let them disrupt the conference. That's what they want. If we look weak, the other delegations will lose confidence in Earth's ability to protect its interests. Your safety is more important than politics, Vrel said. The safety of everyone at this conference is important, Lisa countered. If the Syndicate can grab me, they can grab any diplomat. We need to find them and stop them. Vrel considered this. What do you propose? Lisa looked at Jake. I trust my guard to keep me safe. Let the conference continue. But we use ourselves as bait. Draw the Syndicate out into the open where your warriors can capture them. That is extremely dangerous, Vrel said. I know, Lisa said. But it's necessary. Jake stepped forward. If we do this, I need full access to station security systems. Camera feeds, sensor data, personnel records. Everything. Vrel nodded slowly. I will arrange it. And I need backup, Jake continued. Not Corinthian warriors. They're too visible. I need people who can blend in, watch the crowd without being noticed. I have such people, Vrel said. Human security specialists. They arrived yesterday as part of the expanded protection protocols. Jake looked at Lisa. This plan puts you at significant risk. I understand, Lisa said. She met his eyes. I trust you to keep me safe. I should have trusted you from the beginning. Something flickered in Jake's expression. Not quite a smile, but a slight softening around his eyes. I appreciate that, Commander. Over the next hour, they reviewed security footage from the market attack. The cameras had captured everything. Vrel played the footage for his senior warriors. They watched in silence as Jake took down 8 attackers in 8 seconds. When the footage ended, one of the Corinthian warriors spoke in their language. Vrel translated. He asks if you would be willing to teach our warriors your techniques. Jake looked surprised. You want me to train Corinthian fighters? We respect strength, Vrel said. You have shown great strength. We would learn from you. Jake nodded. After the conference. If there's time. There will be time, Vrel said. Lisa watched this exchange with a strange feeling in her chest. These massive warriors, each one capable of breaking a human in half, were showing respect to Jake. The same Jake she had laughed at 3 days ago. She had been so stupid. Later, alone in her quarters with Jake standing guard outside, Lisa sat on her bed and put her face in her hands. Every dismissive comment she had made played through her mind. Every laugh, every eye roll, every complaint to other diplomats. And through it all, Jake had remained professional. He had done his job perfectly, never once letting her disrespect affect his performance. She got up and opened the door. Jake turned to face her. I need to apologize, she said. Really apologize. Not just because you saved my life, but because I was wrong about you from the first moment. Jake's expression did not change. You made assumptions based on appearance. Most people do. That doesn't make it right, Lisa said. I was cruel. I laughed at you. I complained about you to other people. And you still protected me perfectly. It's my job, Jake said simply. It's more than that, Lisa insisted. You could have let me get hurt. Just a little. Enough to teach me a lesson. But you didn't. Now Jake did smile. Just a little. I took an oath, Commander Grant. I protect people, even when they don't want me to. Even when they don't respect me. The oath doesn't have exceptions. Lisa felt tears in her eyes. I respect you now. Very much. I know, Jake said. Now get some rest. Tomorrow will be difficult. Lisa nodded and went back inside. Through the door, she could hear Jake settling into his watch position. She finally felt safe. The conference resumed the next morning with heavy security visible everywhere. Corinthian warriors stood at every entrance. Vaxian soldiers patrolled the corridors. But Jake's team was invisible. 6 human security specialists, all dressed as conference staff, moved through the crowds. They watched and waited. Lisa gave her presentation on trade route security. She spoke clearly and confidently, but part of her attention remained on Jake. He stood in his usual position against the wall, seemingly relaxed. But now she could see the way his eyes constantly moved, tracking every person in the room. The morning session went smoothly. During the lunch break, Lisa walked to the dining hall with several other diplomats. Jake followed at his usual distance. The invisible security team spread out around them. Lisa noticed small things now. The way Jake positioned himself to always have a clear line of sight. The way he kept his back to walls. The way he moved to put himself between her and anyone who approached too quickly. He had been doing all of this from the beginning. She had just been too blind to see it. The afternoon session focused on technology sharing agreements. The negotiations were tense. The Vaxian delegation wanted access to human computing systems. The human delegation was reluctant to share. Voices were raised. Accusations were made. During a heated exchange, Jake's hand moved to his earpiece. Lisa saw his expression change, becoming sharper and more focused. He listened to something, then moved toward her. We have movement, he said quietly. 3 individuals in the service corridors, heading toward the conference hall. Lisa nodded slightly, not wanting to alert anyone else. What do you need me to do? Stay in the hall. Stay visible. Let them come. Jake spoke into his wrist communicator. All teams, prepare for contact. Subjects approaching from the east service entrance. The invisible security team began moving. 2 positioned themselves near the service entrance. 2 more covered the main exits. The remaining 2 stayed close to the other diplomats, ready to protect them if shooting started. The conference continued. Most people had no idea anything was happening. The Vaxian delegate was making a passionate speech about fair technology exchange. Other delegates were taking notes or whispering to their assistants. A door opened at the side of the hall. A maintenance worker stepped out, pushing a cleaning cart. He looked normal, wearing the standard station uniform. But Jake had already identified him as one of the original suspicious workers from 3 days ago. 2 more maintenance workers appeared from different entrances. They moved into the hall, positioning themselves around the room. Their hands stayed near their cleaning equipment, but Jake could see the weapons hidden under the supplies. Jake spoke softly into his communicator. 3 targets in the hall. Do not engage yet. Wait for the rest. Lisa forced herself to stay calm. She looked at her tablet, pretending to read. Her heart pounded in her chest. The 3 maintenance workers moved closer. One was now only 10 feet from Lisa. He reached into his cart, his hand closing around something metallic. Now, Jake said. Everything happened at once. The 6 invisible security specialists revealed themselves. They moved on the 3 maintenance workers simultaneously. There was a brief struggle. The workers tried to pull their weapons, but the security team was faster. Within seconds, all 3 were on the ground, hands secured behind their backs. The delegates erupted in confused shouts. Corinthian warriors rushed into the hall from the main entrances, weapons drawn. Vrel appeared, directing his forces. But Jake was already moving. He ran toward the east service entrance where the other 2 team members had been positioned. Something was wrong. They should have reported in by now. He reached the service corridor and found both security specialists unconscious on the floor. Beyond them, running deeper into the station, were 5 figures. The rest of the syndicate team. Jake pursued them. He ran through the service corridors, his footsteps silent on the metal floor. The 5 runners were fast, but Jake was faster. He closed the distance. They reached a junction and split up. 2 went left, 3 went right. Jake had to make a choice. He went right, following the larger group. The corridor narrowed. The 3 runners looked back and saw Jake gaining on them. One stopped and turned, pulling a weapon. Jake slid under the shot and came up inside the shooter's reach. He disarmed the attacker with a quick twist and knocked him unconscious. The other 2 kept running. They burst through a door into a cargo bay. Jake followed. The bay was large, filled with shipping containers stacked 3 high. The 2 runners disappeared among the containers. Jake slowed, listening. He could hear their breathing, their footsteps on the metal floor. They were trying to circle around behind him. He climbed onto a container, moving silently across the top. Below, one of the runners crept past, weapon raised. Jake dropped down behind him. Before the runner could react, Jake had disabled him and taken his weapon. The last runner panicked and fired wildly. Energy bolts scorched the containers around Jake. He took cover and waited. The firing stopped. The runner was reloading. Jake moved. He came around a container from an unexpected angle and caught the runner by surprise. A brief struggle ended with the runner on the ground, weapon gone, hand secured. Jake spoke into his communicator. 3 down in Cargo Bay 7. 2 escaped to the west section. Need teams to intercept. Vrel's voice came back. Teams are moving. Are you injured? Negative, Jake said. Stand by. We are bringing the cargo bay secure. Jake stood among the 3 captured syndicate operatives and waited. His breathing was slightly elevated, but he was otherwise unaffected. This had been easier than the market confrontation. These runners had been focused on escape, not on fighting. Corinthian warriors arrived and secured the prisoners. Vrel appeared, looking at the 3 unconscious figures, then at Jake. You caught 3 by yourself, Vrel said. It was not a question. Yes, Jake said. 2 more escaped. They went west. We have them, Vrel said. They ran into a Corinthian patrol. They surrendered without fighting. Jake nodded. That's all of them, then. 8 in the market, 3 in the conference hall, 5 in the corridors. 16 total. 16 syndicate operatives on my station, Vrel said angrily. This is a serious security breach. They had inside help, Jake said. Someone on your staff helped them get false credentials and access to restricted areas. Vrel's face darkened. We will find them. They returned to the conference hall. The delegates were being moved to secure locations while station security swept the entire facility. Lisa was waiting in a protected room with 2 Corinthian guards. When Jake entered, she stood up. "Are you hurt?" "No," Jake said. "They're all captured. You're safe now." Lisa sat back down, relief washing over her. "Is it really over?" "This attempt is over," Jake said. "The Syndicate won't try again during this conference. It would cost them too much." Over the next 2 days, the conference continued under heavy security. The negotiations concluded successfully. Major trade agreements were signed. Earth secured favorable terms on technology licensing and resource extraction rights. On the final day, Lisa gave a closing speech. She thanked the delegates for their participation. She thanked the station staff for their hospitality. And she specifically thanked her security team. "I learned something important during this conference," she said, looking directly at Jake. "Strength comes in many forms. True protection is not about looking intimidating. It is about skill, dedication, and the courage to act when action is needed. My guard, Jake Morris, demonstrated all of these qualities. He kept me safe when others would have failed. I am grateful for his service." The delegates applauded. The Corinthian warriors in the hall struck their chests in their traditional salute of respect. Jake stood against the wall, expression neutral, but Lisa thought she saw a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. After the ceremony, the Corinthian security chief, Krell, approached Jake. "You promised to show us your techniques. We are ready to learn." Jake spent the afternoon in the station's training facility, demonstrating his combat methods to a group of fascinated Corinthian warriors. They were eager students, asking questions and practicing the moves he showed them. They treated him with the respect due to a master fighter. Lisa watched from the observation deck. Carol Stevens stood beside her, the older diplomat who had tried to warn Lisa about underestimating Jake. "You were right," Lisa said. "I should have listened to you." Carol smiled. "We all make assumptions. The important thing is learning from them." "I learned," Lisa said. "I won't forget this lesson." That evening, Lisa prepared to leave Meridian Point. Her shuttle was scheduled to depart in an hour. Jake helped carry her bags to the docking bay. "I wrote a commendation for you," Lisa said as they walked. "It will go in your service record." "Thank you," Jake said. "It's not enough," Lisa said. "You saved my life. You protected me even when I didn't deserve it." Jake stopped and looked at her. "Everyone deserves protection, Commander Grant. That is what I believe. It doesn't matter if they respect me or appreciate me. It doesn't matter if they understand what I do. I took an oath to protect people, and I keep that oath." "I understand that now," Lisa said. "I just wish I had understood it sooner." "You understand it when you need to," Jake said simply. They reached the docking bay. Lisa's shuttle was waiting. She turned to face Jake one last time. "Will you be assigned to protect someone else now?" she asked. "Yes," Jake said. "Tomorrow I meet my new client." "I hope they treat you better than I did," Lisa said. Jake smiled slightly. "They probably won't. People see a small man in a plain uniform. They make assumptions. It's human nature. Doesn't that bother you?" Lisa asked. Jake shrugged. "Underestimation is my greatest advantage. As long as people think I'm too small to be a guard, they won't see me as a threat. That makes my job easier. I save more lives when people underestimate me." Lisa shook her head in amazement. "You're remarkable, Jake Morris." "I'm just doing my job," Jake said. Lisa boarded her shuttle. Through the window, she watched Jake walk away across the docking bay. He looked small and unremarkable, just another security guard finishing his shift. But Lisa knew the truth now. That small man was one of the most dangerous people she had ever met. And one of the most dedicated. Somewhere on the station, another diplomat was probably reading their briefing materials. They were probably skimming the security section. They were probably about to meet Jake Morris and make the same assumptions Lisa had made. And Jake would protect them anyway, because that was who he was. The shuttle launched, carrying Lisa back toward Earth. She had come to Meridian Point to negotiate trade agreements. She left with something more valuable, a lesson in humility and the knowledge that true strength often comes in unexpected packages. Behind her, on the station, Jake Morris stood outside another diplomat's quarters, beginning another assignment. Another person who would probably underestimate him. He smiled to himself. It was going to be an interesting week.